Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this foggy, gray Friday. We're so excited to have you. I'm Madison Iszler. I'm a reporter here at the Express News, and I cover the intersection of business and politics. And this morning, we'll be talking to Sarah Carabias Rush, who is the president and CEO of Greater SATX. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thrilled to be here.
So a little bit of explanation about Greater SATX for those who are joining who may not know. This is the organization that's responsible for selling the San Antonio region to companies across the world, convincing them to invest in facilities here, to expand, to bring jobs here. It's also focused on keeping current employers happy, listening to what they say they need to be successful, what they're looking for as they expand. A little bit of an intro for Sarah. Sarah spent more than 18 years at the Dallas Regional Chamber in various roles and was leading corporate recruitment when she came to Greater SATX in 2022. She was Chief Economic Development Officer until August when she took the reins of the organization. So we're really excited to be talking to her this morning. We will be talking about a variety of things, the challenges of recruiting companies here, what existing employers are looking for, the process of bringing companies here, but we want to hear your questions. So if you have a question, please use the Q&A button. I'll be monitoring that during our conversation, and I'll try to get to as many questions as I can. So let's jump in. What is foremost on your mind when you come to work in the morning?
Foremost on my mind. That is such a great question. I would say for me, first and foremost, is my team. We have a team of about 25, give or take, at any given time, that is focused on helping us accomplish a really big mission for this region, and making sure that we've set that team up for success every day is top of mind every single day. And then it usually goes to a lot of other, questions, just based on what that day is going to look like. But, we think a lot about what are the things that are keeping us from winning? What are the things that are on the immediate horizon for trying to get a project, an announcement across the finish line? And overall, just the programs that we do in workforce and economic development across the community. So my team, the burden, the impact of that we carry on behalf of this region, trying to bring job creation here that drives economic mobility, always weighs on me. I try to think about that first thing every day. And then how do we get our deals done? I guess that's where I would start.
Tell us, I'm sure there's no typical day.
No.
Things happen, things come up, but tell us just some of what a typical work week looks like. Are you getting coffee once a week with one of your board members? Are you flying to Japan? Just tell us what that generally looks like.
Sure. I would say it's a little bit of all of that. So we're an interesting organization because we are both public and private sector funded. And so every single week we're spending some of our time engaging with those investors. So one of our 200 private sector investors, we're connecting with the leaders of those organizations, trying to find ways to plug them into our work, making sure that we're leveraging their expertise, et cetera, et cetera. So grabbing coffee, getting to know folks, especially right now in 4 months in, getting to know a lot of people. But we're also connecting with our public sector partners to make sure that we are addressing, any particular issues or needs that are coming up from our clients, and from the companies that we serve here in the region. We spend a good deal of time, internally making sure the organization is running. So meeting with my team, working through whatever challenges or roadblocks are in their way. And then I would say we also, certainly we do a lot of outbound travel. We do a lot of hosting. So this week, I think I've had 4 different meetings with companies that have come into the market and are evaluating the market, helping them evaluate real estate, helping them look at workforce questions, helping them understand incentives and dynamics for their decision to help make that decision possible. So whether it's meeting with local companies that are looking to grow or working with companies that are new to town, spending time with them in a variety of ways.
Let's talk about the process of courting a company.
Sure.
You just touched on some of the aspects that I'm sure come up: real estate, if they can access the local workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have enough land for what they need? Do the utilities, are the utilities in place? But let's go to the beginning. How does that conversation start?
Sure.
Are they reaching out to Greater SATX? Are you reaching out to them?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going up to a CEO at a work event? How does that start?
All of the above. Okay. All of the above. So let's back up even just a little bit further than when we have an active deal in hand. So for us, one of the critical things that our team does is develop relationships. So we have a team that I would say is kind of focused on the outbound, meaning we're going out to other markets, building relationships in those external markets and trying to draw investment here. And then we have a team here that is connecting with the local companies that are already here. And we're trying to support them in all kinds of different ways so that ultimately they can choose to add more jobs into their local, into the local business. Sometimes our outbound work is visiting with parent companies of companies that are here, making sure that that local company presence is strong and they have what they feel like they need at the headquarters level to support the growth of the local business. But a lot of times it is starting a relationship from scratch. And we think about it through our target industry sectors. We think about it through the kinds of companies that we believe complement the San Antonio region's economy and target in on those businesses to start trying to find, who would be the right company to come be here. We do it in a combination of ways, like the broad push, the big marketing push, if you will. Think 2,000 companies at any given time. We're trying to get the San Antonio messaging out in front of those companies. Think LinkedIn advertisements that our team pushes out on, our theming Life Works Greater in the San Antonio region. And so we're pushing out to talented individuals, to corporate executives, trying to get that broad base understanding of the region. So we have to start there. If a company doesn't think about San Antonio for anything other than margaritas and the Riverwalk or the Spurs, we're not going to be having a business conversation with them. So we need to start by seeding that with these companies, and that's where we begin. From there, we have an effort where we will dive in and try to get that one-on-one meeting with a business. And we're generally targeting CEO, CFO, heads of HR, heads of operations, sometimes supply chain or heads of manufacturing, depending on the business type and the operation type that we're pursuing. But trying to get to the leaders of those entities to begin a conversation. And that introductory conversation is, look, we're San Antonio. We're this region, this 10-county region here. We have a lot to offer. We want to understand what your growth challenges are and how we can potentially support you as you're trying to grow your business here in San Antonio. So think of it as a relationship, and we think of ourselves as problem solvers and connectors. So trying to understand their issues, figure out how we can support them here in the region. This is a long story. I'm sorry, but we've got time.
It's helpful
so this is really fun.
Yeah.
When at some point during this process of relationship building and with the new relationships with, no active project, that could be a matter of a year. That could be 10 years. We don't know when that relationship is going to pivot into an active deal. But it's so important and so critical that we have those relationships because these companies are making location decisions all the time. And we're not necessarily always going to be on the short list for those opportunities here in San Antonio. So we want them thinking about us before they know they have a project. Even if it's subconscious, they need to know that San Antonio needs to be on the list as they're considering where to go next. So that's the thought process behind that. Once we have a deal in hand, or the company has a deal in hand, I should say. And when we say deal, what we mean is an investment project that will lead to job creation. And for us, we classify that by looking at the size of the investment and the number of jobs that they are considering creating. And when they have that project in hand, companies go about their next steps in a wide array of ways. Some of the companies go directly to the communities where they want to explore. And if we have that existing relationship, then they call us. They know that we're there to support them through that process. We get a lot of those direct company phone calls. Mm-hmm. The other way is through site selection consulting. There are individuals out there that get paid to do the work that we do, but at a national or global level, representing companies' interest. Sometimes that's real estate developers or brokers. Sometimes they're focused on tax consulting only, so they're thinking about incentives and business climate considerations, but a lot of different ways that they're thinking about the deal. And they then call us for that local level information. Everything from a real estate search to an incentives proposal from the local community to workforce research or competitive landscape research on our region. So we work with the site selection consultants. In those cases, we generally don't even know who the company is at that point. It is a project name. Maybe a future project will be Project Madison, and we will then work Project Madison until we know who the company is, and we get a chance to engage more directly with that business, right? But we're helping move the project through the process. Mm-hmm. We also get projects directly from the state of Texas and from other economic development groups or organizations, folks that become aware. Local real estate community, for example, will call us sometimes if they get a call from an existing client that's thinking about expanding or looking at, they have a relationship with them in, Nashville, and they're looking at San Antonio. And so they'll call us to help them through that search process. Long backstory then. So we're supporting basically, think of us as the one-stop shop then for that company or their consultants or advisors to evaluate this market. Think about what, consideration issues they have for where they're going to put that next location, and then really be that advisor and partner for walking them through managing the local relationships, being the go-between between government and private sector, being the go-between with the workforce development teams, really that I like to call us that master storyteller of helping bridge and build the right relationships so that that company can be ultimately successful, ultimately land here, and once they're here, grow and sustain in the market. So a lot of different things. We could go a million different directions if you want to go deeper, but it's the best part of our day-to-day job is helping our companies go through this process.
I want to jump back to something you said earlier, just about how Greater SATX works. Mm-hmm. So it's a public-private organization. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your board reflects that. Mm-hmm. You've got public individuals on it. Mm-hmm. You've got executives from companies, developers, and the like. Mm-hmm. Just tell us a little bit about your bosses. What direction do they give you? How does it work with them? Yeah, that's a great question. So we have an incredible board of directors that helps us review and evaluate our overall strategies. They approve our budgets and how we are spending our resources on an annual basis, and they advise us and give us advice and counsel. At the end of the day, they look to me to make that ultimate decision and run the business, but they are our advisors. They're helping us understand the direction. They're helping us navigate tough or challenging situations. They're coming to the table to help us find solutions and remove those roadblocks that we run into from time to time. They're our partners, if you will. But you're right. I have a lot of different bosses, and that's the fun of it, right? I mean, I see us as trying to collaborate with as many organizations and individuals as possible to build on, to develop and build on the vision of a lot of different people, but that ultimately is a cohesive vision that this region can stand behind for economic development. So we set that vision in a lot of ways through our research and the work that we do, and then support and align with elected leaders in our community, for example, and other private sector leaders to make sure we're moving forward that vision for the community. Let's talk about headquarters.
Okay.
San Antonio is home to relatively few headquarters. We really haven't replaced AT&T, which left in 2008, a move that in some ways still hangs over the city. I know it's ingrained in a lot of people's minds. Why is that? Why do we not have more corporate offices and headquarters here?
Sure. So when I was in Dallas, that was a core part of the work that I did there, was supporting companies going through that headquarters selection process. And when you think about what a headquartered company is thinking about most, the first thing is talent and accessibility of the right kind of talent to help them lead the business. Their headquarters operation is dealing with everything from the senior most executives, CEOs and C-suite, making all the decisions for the company at the end of the day, to administrative teams, to, working with those professional services organizations that are helping them develop and run their business as well. So there's an ecosystem around a headquarters. When we look at it, we say for every one job, there's 4 additional jobs that are created when a headquarters locates. So a headquarters company is thinking about all of those factors. They're also thinking about how quickly can I get to the most critical stakeholders to my business. So think about direct air service to wherever their client base is, wherever their key suppliers might be, whatever that looks like for that company, they need to quickly be able to gain access to those markets. So people and the talent surrounding those people, direct flights, For in my experience, those are the core reasons that folks are thinking about. They're also looking at the quality of place, right? They want to know, is this a market where I can not only attract the kinds of talent that I need, but can their families also succeed in these markets? I share all of that because we do have some challenges in San Antonio that can keep us from winning certain kinds of headquarters deals. I'm going to be frank. We're not going to go chase at Greater SATX American Airlines headquarters. American Airlines needs to access the entire globe, and our airport is not set up to be able to support that level of access. And that's why it's so critical that we keep investing in our airport and we keep investing in the people in our community. I think the other big challenge that we have is scale. We're not as large a market as some of these other places. And so when you think about the volume of talent that headquarters needs to come through, they're looking for large markets, generally speaking. Again, I'm thinking Fortune 500, Fortune 200 companies, right? The largest companies in the world need a lot of people that they can source from. They also need a lot of educated talent. And so as we think about how we need to continue to lean in San Antonio, it's really advancing that educational attainment level for this community overall, because we're not showing up in the data sets just based on the volume of educated individuals that are in this community. Now, we've moved the needle in huge ways over the last couple of years. We moved from up to about 42% educational attainment. I believe it was a 4% increase over the last 5 years. That's thousands and thousands of individuals that now have a degree within this community, and we are moving the needle. And so I think with time, what we're seeing is as we focus on these critical foundational opportunities for our region, recruiting headquarters will become a lot easier. And I think we have a right to win. That's the way we think about it. We have a right to win with a variety of headquarter types that would thrive in San Antonio. So we don't need to chase the biggest companies in the world and try to get them to uproot into a smaller market. That's not realistic. But there are tons of great companies out there. I mean, think about HEB. It's a massive business. They are headquartered here. They are an incredible community partner, and they are they fit the unique San Antonio culture. The corporate culture here is so special. It's so special and so unique. So for us, when we think about headquarters moves, we're targeting and getting in front of those companies that align with those corporate values that we have here in San Antonio and that are serving the U.S. market. or US and Latin America market. They're not necessarily thinking about global access every single day. We have a right to win in that space. I believe we have a right to win in family-owned businesses. I think we have a right to win in kind of larger mid-sized companies. So we are working through a significant strategy over the next 5 years to target and be in front of those companies from a headquarter perspective to try to draw their interest here in San Antonio and see more of those wins come across the finish line.
I want to talk more about the benefits of having a headquarters here. You mentioned some of the job ripple effects. Sure. Companies are so widely distributed now. They'll have the headquarters, but of course not all of the jobs are there. They'll have facilities all over the place. Right. So what are the benefits of a headquarters? Sure.
Well, the capital comes back to the mothership, right? So when you think about the impact on taxes and the funds that just literally are flowing through that business, that is beneficial to the state and it's beneficial to the local jurisdictions where that company is based. You also see the jobs that come with the spouses, right, that are coming through in a headquarters situation. I mentioned all of the professional services and the kinds of companies that come up around a headquarters. You can think about even restaurants. And again, when you have a larger base of people in a singular location, that's going to drive investment around that particular location. You've got the housing implications, which are great for communities and the investments around that. And then I think probably most notably is that philanthropic giving and the level of community engagement that you see from headquarters typically is stronger at the headquarters base than it is at some of their other locations because it's their home, right? They want to invest in their home and really see their home succeed.
I'm just going to remind our viewers very quickly that if you'd like to ask Sarah a question, you can just drop that in the Q&A box if you hit the button. Airport. Let's talk airport. You mentioned that. And that was, of course, one of the reasons that AT&T executives cited for why they decided to move to Dallas was difficulty getting people in and out, not as many direct flights. That was in 2008. Is our airport still holding us back?
We are making huge strides at the airport. In fact, we are constantly visiting with airlines, even globally, about opportunities here in this market. And we feel very confident with the investments that are being made today. We're going to be much, much better positioned. We won't be finding ourselves having the same conversations a few years from now. So what do I mean? Is it a $2.5 billion investment going into our airport at the moment. We'll be adding originally it was 17 new gates. Now it's 18 new gates coming into the airport and lengthening the runway. So now we can accommodate larger planes, not only cargo planes, but also think those transatlantic or even trans-Pacific level flight service. So I feel really, really good about where our airport is headed. If you've seen any of the renderings of what it's going to look like, it's going to be a world-class airport and really reflect San Antonio and our culture, which is incredible because that's the first taste of a community that a visitor gets when they come into the airport, right? So we want it to reflect us as well. I also have to say, personally, I live, downtown, kind of near the Pearl area, and I can be to my gate. Granted, I have clear and TSA pre-check, but I have tested this, and I can be at my gate in 20 minutes from my apartment downtown. I think that's pretty special and something that executives really value because they value their time significantly. And when you think about that ease of access, as we open up more direct flights from our community, I think executives are going to take a look at that and see that very positively.
When you talk to executives who are here at companies and executives who are maybe looking at San Antonio, what are their priority destinations for those direct flights? What are the biggest markets they need to be able to get to quickly, easily?
Sure. Interestingly, there was an event just a week or two ago where a business audience was surveyed on their top destinations. And so it's great timing. I know the answer to that very clearly. But we also survey our investor base. We work with all the chambers and organizations within our community to survey their members. And we've got a pretty good sense that a transatlantic flight is really critical. We are the largest market within the United States that does not have direct transatlantic service at the moment. And we see that need in the what's called passengers daily each way, PDUs. There's more than 300 people every day that are starting their day in San Antonio trying to get somewhere in Europe. And so we know that there's a need there, and we will continue pushing for that as our top priority. In partnership with VSA as well as with the airport, we've all agreed that that's the top priority for us. Increased service, I think, is one of the areas that we hear a lot of need in. So I would say the broader DC area, particularly the new DCA flight, hearing that increased connectivity there it will be important for us. Querétaro has been a big one as well. We landed that direct service, I think it was a year ago at this point, maybe two. And I think increased service into that market as well for the corporate leaders in this area. But we go through a process. We evaluate those every couple of years and target those airlines and markets for direct new or increased service on a regular basis.
I'm going to take an audience question. Who are San Antonio's main competitors in terms of cities? Who are we jostling for jobs, facilities, headquarters with?
Yeah, great question. We look at a set of about 10 communities that we think of as aspirational and or peer markets where we are consistently seeing some type of competition. And I'm going to look at my list so I don't mistake. Dallas and Austin, obviously to some degree. We compete some with Austin, but not as much as people would think. Actually, I think most companies see us as one large market, one mega region. And so increasingly, they're looking at this region more holistically and trying to determine where within the broader region will make sense for them. But we do see some competition there. Charlotte, Nashville, Jacksonville, Kansas City are markets that we consider kind of in terms of size to be our peer markets. And again, we see quite a bit, particularly with the Charlotte area and to some degree the Nashville area as competitors for us. And then DC, Phoenix, and Denver would kind of be the next larger growth markets where we see quite a bit of competition. Phoenix has been a rapidly growing and expanding market now for some time. They've been large competitors for us for a long time. When I think about other markets based on industry segment, there would be some others that would pop out. We've actually had a lot of manufacturing competition in Ohio recently, which is surprising to me. We also see it as a critical market for companies that are looking at expanding here, interestingly. So it's both competition, but also companies are thinking about leaving. And so it's an interesting balancing act there. I would say for DC, for cybersecurity, I mean, that is a critical competitive and partner market for us. It's both, right? For life sciences, which is a core sector for us, we have seen huge announcements coming out of North Carolina in the last year. And we know we're going to get our chance at one of these pharmaceutical manufacturing plants before we know it. That's going to come our way. We're working hard and have had some really, really good progress there in the last couple of years. And I would say Phoenix, Dallas, for those professional services operations, typically. Those would be the markets.
I want to talk about the labor force. Obviously, that's a top item on executives' checklists when they're looking at San Antonio.
Right.
Things are improving, as you mentioned, but our educational attainment levels are still a real challenge. There aren't as many people with college degrees compared to some of the markets you just mentioned. What is Greater SATX's role in helping address that educational and skills, really, gap?
Yeah, great question. So we do a lot of work when it comes to workforce development. We play both a direct role in supporting, but also a very, what I would call kind of supportive, collaborative role in trying to move folks forward together faster. So, for example, we convene the university presidents from all the institutions in this region on a regular basis, and we sit down as a group. We look at the trend lines, we look at the industries that are growing, we look at where we're projecting growth, and we align what those program needs are across those institutions to ensure that we're graduating students that are going to come out and be able to land jobs. We also together will set and decide on educational attainment goals that we want to see our community work toward. So I can't say yet for sure that we have this big announcement coming, but we know we're going to have a big announcement where all the university presidents are coming together to stand behind a big goal for educational attainment in this next over this next 5 years. And so we'll share more with you as that goal gets finalized. But we feel pretty strongly that that's an area that we need to continue to lean in on. Directly, we're supporting companies that are going through that process of trying to ramp up hiring by directly connecting to those area workforce providers, whether it's Workforce Solutions Alamo, whether it's a training program with Alamo colleges, whether we're working with, Texas State Technical College or others, FAST or FAME, which are manufacturing training programs in the area, helping get them connected directly to those program areas and aligning those program areas around the needs of that employer. So that they have a very clear plan towards what they need to do to get that talent hired on their timeline. And all of the community is working together. So JCB is a great example of this, where we've sat down with them, we meet with them. First, it was weekly. I think we're on biweekly at this point, but still working through with them, what are the talent pipeline pathways that they have? How can we make sure that we're getting those types of skills in? Are the training programs set up to deliver those skills? And so it's a coordinative effort, if you will, but a necessary one if we're going to meet some of these demands. I will also add that we have a program known as SA Works that is helping students get connected to careers and to, really helping them understand the opportunities that there are out there. So we do a high school internship program every summer. This last 5 years, when we look at the impact, it's a paid internship program for high school students, by the way. And we supported $3 million in direct youth wages through that internship program over the last 5 years. And, that's highly impactful. I mean, if you think of yourself as a high school student, say you've never been into an office setting. Your parents don't work in an office. You don't know what that's like. You put them into USAA or HEB's headquarters, for the summer, and all of a sudden they have an idea of a very different career path that they could never have imagined for themselves, right? We've also worked with companies like International, formerly known as Navistar, but International is their name. They actually bring on a large number of interns every summer, and we've seen that they consistently bring those interns on full time for work after the fact. So they've had a lot of success with that program directly. And getting that exposure and access to students within our community is really critical.
So there are programs, a variety of programs really in the works to try to upskill people, to try to get them the degrees that will help them in these careers. Yeah. That takes time, of course. Is it moving as fast as employers you talk to want? Is there an emphasis on really speeding things up so that they have this ready access to the talent they need?
I mean, they're always, we always want to go faster.
Sure.
I don't think anyone would be happy with me saying it's going fast enough here, right? But we have made some tremendous strides. And as I mentioned, I mean, even just with with educational attainment numbers, which are hard to move the needle on. We moved up, like I said before, I think 4 or 5 percentage points, right, in the last 5 years. We are second in terms of growth when you look at our peer set. We are looking at our people movement over the last 5 years. Let me back up a second. I mentioned all those peer communities that we benchmark ourselves against, and we look at, let's say, 10 different variables across our 3 pillars, which are jobs, people, and place. So within that people segment, we look at everything from wage growth to educational attainment to degrees and certifications to, a wide array of variables. And we're comparing against our peer set. How are we doing in those areas? Over this last 5 years, we were positioned as, and I'm going to check the numbers here, we were positioned at, forgive me, we were positioned at 7th and moved to 4th within our people pillar over a 5-year period, meaning all of those variables kind of add up to movement in the right direction. And of course, we want to be first, but we're very happy with the movement. That's a leading indicator to me in terms of what we're going to see on the back end from a job creation perspective over the next 5 years. When we move the needle on ready workforce, the jobs are going to follow. Because the entire U.S. is in this. This is a global issue, not even just a U.S. issue. When you look at Asia and their declining workforce, there's a declining readiness of that workforce because it's aging. And Europe is in the same boat. Most of the U.S. is in the same boat. And we've been very lucky here in San Antonio to see that continued growth, not only in population, but in workforce and readiness.
Often when a facility comes here, or is thinking about coming here, I should say, cities, counties, states will offer different financial inducements. Usually that takes the form of some kind of tax break, maybe a partial property tax abatement or the like. I'm curious how big of a factor that is in companies' decision-making about where to go. The fact that government is offering this implies to me that it is a factor, but how big of a factor is it? Is it a make or break piece?
Well, I would say it's not upfront. If you can't meet the talent needs, if you can't meet the, cost considerations that the company has, if you can't meet their supply chain needs, all of the factors that we kind of talked about before that is part of that company's decision-making process, you have to get that threshold first. If you meet that threshold, you're not the only community that did. Right? There's going to be several of them. And so at that point, it becomes a challenge of what are going to be the best incentives or inducements to make that process smooth for the company. It is, incentives are very important in the process. And if it were up to me, I would love to see us all just compete without incentives. I promise you, I wish they weren't part of the equation. And it's very important. Our communities, there are the peer set that we benchmark against. I mean, it's difficult to be able to keep pace with all of the different kinds of incentives that every state is offering, every city is offering, every county is offering. And so for us, it is a critical factor, but I would say not until the end of the process. And at that point, it is a critical factor. And they're literally looking at dollar amounts, state, city to city, site to site, to see what's going to make the most sense. Because think about it. These companies are coming in making $100 million, $500 million, $1 billion investments. And those investments are dollars that they're spending on that and not on other things like talent or supply chain improvements or innovating on a new product. And so they're thinking about this cash flow up front and looking for ways to offset that a little bit so that it's not as huge an impact and doesn't prohibit them from moving the business forward in other ways. So it's a complex issue, right? People love to hate incentives, I would say. It's easy to hate, right? And it's so important because at the end of the day, that company is making a tremendous impact. And what they want is a community partner and somebody that sees the value of that investment that they're making, that's willing to walk alongside them and help make investments with them so that they can continue to grow and really be, they see it as a partnership. They want a partnership in a local community. They want to know they're in a community that values them. And at the end of the day, that's a big part of the incentive, apart from the dollars and cents reasons, right?
I'm going to take another audience question about the chambers in San Antonio. We have a ton of chambers of commerce. In some other cities, the Chamber of Commerce, the main Chamber of Commerce, is connected to an organization like Greater SATX. Other
in my
cities,
prior role, it was.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. How do they fit into the picture?
Sure.
Do they support Greater SATX's work? Do you have different emphases or focuses? How do those work together?
Yeah. So when I think about the value of the chambers in particular, is I see our chambers as the advocates for business, business climate questions and issues, and they're able to really push forward policy considerations. Where we're going to be super, we call it surgical on those advocacy issues that we lean in on. They need to have a very direct line to what we're doing. We work very closely with the chambers, though, when it comes to understanding our local business dynamics, driving conversations on critical issues that we need to address as a community. We're doing that in partnership and in collaboration with our chambers of commerce. They're representing their members' needs in a very different way. We have investors in our organization, but I like to say we're not a membership organization, if you will, in the sense that, people are engaging and investing with Greater SATX because they believe in this broader mission of growing our economy and growing job creation in our community. They're not joining because they're going to come do networking events and really build their business from that perspective. It's a very different investment proposition. And so I think both are really important. And I'll also add that we meet regularly with the leaders of the other chambers, thinking through, and they all say to me, look, we're here to support what you all are trying to do. How do we align around some of these challenges that you're facing? And so we work through those challenges together and find opportunities to better align the business community and the voice of our community to push forward some of these critical business climate questions.
JCB announced about 2 years ago now, I think, that they were going to build a big facility on the south side.
That's right.
Hire about 1,500 people, if I'm remembering right, over 5 years. That was a big announcement at the time. I think it was the biggest maybe in 20 years, if I'm remembering what folks said at the time.
That's correct.
There have been some other announcements since then. Guidehouse opening an office here, Toyota expanding their plant, but nothing of that level of significance in terms of the number of jobs. Why is that?
Well, it was 20 years from one to the next. These kinds of opportunities are, okay, let me back up. Why not? It has been a very unique couple of years when you think about the uncertainty in the business climate and what has been impacting companies' decision making. We have seen that firsthand. We thought this year, I fully anticipated a couple of announcements of that scale this year. And we found that with, trade negotiations and other things that have been going on, it has delayed some of that decision making that we thought were going to be announcements this year, have pushed into next year as companies are working through this. But here's the good news. When you look at our pipeline, it has shifted from the JCB size of investment being the exception to being the norm. particularly in the advanced manufacturing sector. The majority of our projects are averaging at or above that in terms of employment size and investment size. And when you look at what's currently in our pipeline, 24,000 potential jobs, $12.3 billion in capital investment. And that's across, I think it's 54 active projects right now. I can't do that math on the fly, but the average job per project is pretty significant, right? When you're looking at that. The top sectors that we're seeing that activity in: aerospace, energy and battery related investments, and automotive are going to be the largest in terms of job creation within that pipeline for us today.
You just mentioned the uncertain climate and how that's affecting things. What does that mean tangibly? Does that mean a company might have been looking at starting work on a facility next year and now they're holding back? Does that mean tariffs are making things uncertain or too expensive? What does that look like?
It's all of that. I mean, I think the companies like certainty because they want to be able to know that if they make an investment, again, let's say it's $1 billion investment, it's not an insignificant amount of money. They want to know that at the end of the day, that $1 billion investment is going to yield the results that they're predicting. And that their capital outlays aren't going to double, or triple what they expect it to be. And so there have been cost considerations. I mean, certainly interest rates have not been helping the situation either. The tariffs have been, I would say, the biggest point of impact for us in this last year because we've been working with a lot of global companies and they want to be in the U.S. market. It's their most critical market. They think about their consumer base. They think about who they're selling their products to, and they want and need to be in the U.S. market. And they can't predict the price of what it's going to take to build whatever that widget is. They can't predict that price. And they can't predict the price of the materials to build their facility. And so from that standpoint, it caused a large pause. When you look, Southern Business Economic Development Magazine. I didn't quite get that title right, but there's a magazine that's got something with Southern and economic development in it that kind of did a little bit of a look back over the first part of this year, I would say maybe 2-3 months ago. And they said it was the lowest in terms of announced projects in the Southern United States in over 30 years. So it's not just here. I mean, this has been across the Southern U.S. And across the U.S. and more broadly. That said, we are getting to a place now where the tariffs are known, where companies are able to start calculating what's coming. And so we have seen a tremendous reinvigoration of the conversations that we've been having with a lot of these companies and are gearing up for a fairly significant year ahead, I think.
I know we're nearing the hour mark, so I'm going to ask 2 more questions, one from an audience member. Let's talk about existing employers, folks who are already here, the HEBs, the USAAs, the smaller family-owned businesses. What are the challenges they're telling you about that are making it difficult for them to want to stay here or to be able to expand here? What are the big retention topics? Well, workforce remains a point of conversation in every meeting that we have with a local business. And again, there's a ton of investments happening in that space. But I think for employers, it's understanding who do you talk to about which program and how do you connect the dots to make sure that you're getting that workforce that you need. It's a heavy lift right now to navigate the ecosystem. And while there's tremendous progress being made, helping them navigate that, I think, is one of the key areas that we stay focused on. We hear certainly about flights, which we've already spoken to, infrastructure more broadly.
making sure that our community is keeping pace with the growth. We know we have a lot of pain when it comes to commute times right now for all the construction going on. There's 20 TxDOT projects that are underway within our community right now are crucial, and we need them. And it can be a challenge for companies, right, as they're navigating and trying to keep pace with the growth of our community. We are talking with some companies about, longer term power conversations. There's a big push for power requirements within our community. CPS is doing a great job of bringing new capacity online, and they're working within a Texas system that is challenged to move at the speed of business from a transmission standpoint. And so, how we support CPS and our businesses to achieve their goals is really critical, and something, again, we spend a lot of time thinking about. And the same could be said on water, right? Mm-hmm. Tons of investments need to happen in water within our community. We made tremendous investments in this last legislative session, and we're excited about what that means for us here in San Antonio. But those are all conversations that consistently come up for us.
I want to ask, just as a last question, kind of how you'll measure your success.
Sure.
Decades from now, when you're maybe transitioning to retirement, what will you look back at as the marks that you've done a good job, you've been successful?
Yeah. Well, let me start by framing it in our 5-year plan. And then I love that question. And we'll circle back to that. Like, when I think about us 5 years from now, we're just wrapping up our all-in strategy, which is this past 5-year strategy we've been implementing. And we've talked a little bit about those successes, really moving the needle on people, moving the needle on place measures, moving the needle on jobs measures. When we think about where we're headed, we're focused on driving more job creation in those high value jobs within our community. So we're thinking about our target industry sectors, which I mentioned, and more of those headquarters jobs, but looking at 20,000 jobs over the next 5 years is our goal. And over 100, and when I say 20,000, I mean jobs that our team directly engages with, supports, and, is getting to an announcement perspective. We're looking to drive 150,000 jobs in the broader regional context. So again, that's all the things that you do from a workforce development perspective, infrastructure support, just making sure the broader economy is pushing forward. The educational attainment goal, we're trying to get to 45% over the next 5-year period, and we're sitting at about 42 right now. So that 3% or tens of thousands of individuals that will move up in their educational attainment. We want to see $25 billion in wage growth. And I really want to see one transatlantic flight get landed in this next 5 years. But so when I look back and I'm coming to retirement, I think the thing that I really think about is, have I been successful if my team feels empowered? Every time I get to walk into a facility and I see, there are 200, 1,000, 2,000 new jobs that were there because our team supported those individuals getting into high-paying, good jobs. That's what drives me every day, is imagining what we're doing for those families, the way that we're transforming lives through job creation. That's what drives me. It's my team, and it's the mission of our work.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for making time to join us. This has been a great conversation. And thank you to our viewers also for joining us. Look for more Express News live events in 2026, and we hope you have a happy holiday season. Thank you all.